Welcome to Board Game Archaeology, where we play time-worn games from the past. I'm Hunter.
I'm Rob.
And today we're playing the exciting game of the Kennedys.
The exciting game of the Kennedys. A 2 to 6 player game. Doesn't have an age on it. Really doesn't have how many players you can play on it too, but it does have 6 pieces. But age, I'm going to say 10 and up, maybe 12 and up, and we'll explain why in a little bit. And this is from the Glenn collection. Glenn is a fan of ours, his mom Millie. We've showed her picture a number of times on our show. Glenn needed a home for his games, and with his help, we got a bunch of Glenn's games that you're going to be seeing throughout the next year, because we got that many games.
So you can thank him for today's episode.
Absolutely. And honestly, out of all 56 games or whatever, I think we had 3 duplicates, which I was amazed about. And good ones, too, which were fun.
Yeah, to start out, essentially everyone rolls 1 die, highest goes first, and you win the game by having 4 category cards of your own and 2 category cards of someone else's. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yep, and that's kind of how it starts to get convoluted. So each one of these decks has 1 card per person. So we're playing as Bobby and John Jr. And so these cards only have Bobby and John Jr. cards in it, and they're alphabetically stacked. So we have 6 each of each person's cards there. We have a stack of blank cards that we'll get to with the rules with Hunter in a second. We have money, kind of Monopoly money, but 100,000, 50,000 in tens, and you start the game with 500, like you said. We have the 6 playing pieces, a nice board game board, but it kind of looks Cluish to me. It looks very Cluish to me. And then there's the turn of event cards. And again, it's like these cards where you have them specifically for the person. So John Jr. has 12 cards, Bobby has 12 cards, Jackie has 12 cards, Jack has 12 cards. And so it's really the family. It's Jack, Bobby, Teddy, Jacqueline, Caroline, and John Jr. And you have to put these cards in alphabetical order, and I'll let you talk about that. So we have 12 cards of each of the event cards. I'm going to shuffle these as you explain deeper into the mysteries of the exciting game of the Kennedys.
Yeah, when you start out, you have to roll both die, and you would essentially go, so in this case it would be 6, and I rolled a double, which that's the only way that you get event cards.
You do.
But I would go 6, so
no,
1,
that's me.
2, 3, what?
That's John Jr.
You're right.
You're Bobby.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you don't have to use your entire roll. But now, once you're in a room and you can't go diagonal, there's a reason, you can only go that way.
Forward, backwards,
And
sideways.
so in this case, there's only one thing that you can really do in a room, and that is to pay 100,000, which I'll do like that, because you just kind of give it to the bank. And then I will secretly replace, it has to be one of the 2 cards that I'm replacing in a 2-player game, and then I'd return it and keep mine a secret.
So the reasoning behind that is in order to win, you have to have 4 of your own and 2 of other people's. And you can't have they can't be repetitive. You can't have 2 of the personal image one, or the social standings, or the position of importance, or the backing of a power group, or influential friends, which everything's kind of the same, and popular support. So yeah, and now it would be my turn. And I would get to go, and I got doubles. So I would get one of these 2. Oh, you didn't pick your card.
You're right. Then technically, this one would be mine. The event cards essentially have a thing that's already played out. And in this example, it says Bobby asks for proof of age in a Washington bar. Loses personal image. Now in this case, I don't have personal image, but if I did, I would have to play it. In a game with more people playing, if this said something like, John Jr., then I'm going to play this right away. If it doesn't benefit me, though, I can always hold on to it and maybe use it in a deal in the conference room.
Yeah. The turn of event cards can be either pro or minus. It's a 50-50 kind of thing. Some of them tell you to get rid of cards. One of them tells you to surrender a card, have another person surrender a card, or you get to gain one, or they get to gain one. So it's going to be kind of a 50-50 thing. So out of the 12 cards, 6 of them are going to hurt you, and the other ones aren't. The thing is you have to roll doubles to get them. And well, we got lucky. We did 2 in a row. So we could put those into play right away. And again, it's up to you. So I got a Bobby resigns as Attorney General. I'm not Bobby, so it's not going to affect me at all, and it's not going to affect Hunter because he doesn't have the card.
Yeah. And that's more or less the fine points. When you land on a dollar sign, you take one die, you roll it, and you times it by 10,000. So if you roll a 6 like this, I would get 60,000 from the bank.
Yep.
And that's essentially how you make money in the game.
And much like the rooms, you can't do the dollar sign twice in a row. You can't do a room twice in a row. You have to do another room before you go back to another room. And then there is the conference room.
The conference room, 2 things can happen. So it only requires one person. You're rather going to accuse someone of having your card. It's kind of a goldfish scenario where if you have the card that I claim that the person does, if I was like, do you have Bobby's position of importance? You would have to give it to me. Or I can make a deal. So I can say, like, if this said something like John Jr. gains a position of power, and you need one of those or something, I can potentially finagle something that would benefit me out of that. But it's not until you have your 4 category cards and your 2 of someone else's, so it can, be any 4 of mine, and, it just has to be someone else's, and you can't have duplicates of the same category. It reminds me a lot of Why. Our second episode.
Yeah.
I don't know why, for some reason, or don't know why. The whole concept, I'm pretty sure in that one you can't go in and out of rooms either, but it had a very similar, like, you pick up the pieces in the rooms kind of gameplay bit. I know that that's a bit of a genre that we've done at this point. I feel like some of the aesthetic elements kind of tied it to it for me, so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and to me it was very Clue-ish. I feel Clue all over the game. It's kind of like somebody played Clue like last Christmas, and they invented a game and designed something that looks very similar to Clue to me.
Yeah, from the 2 fertile minds that came from Harvard that brought us this, and I'm quoting the box.
This came with the game, where it actually talks about the 2 authors. One's 21 and one's 22, and they created the game. And I think part of it is playtesting, right? I don't think they playtested maybe so much in 1962. But the gameplay it's kind of unique in that you're picking up things, you're doing this under the table. You're not supposed to look. You're supposed to know alphabetically which card is which. So Bobby has to be on top as long as everybody's real cool about it and does it right. And if you don't do it right, it's just cheating, and you call the game and start over. I don't know. So, it is a game of influence. So...
Indeed. And it's like if you pick a blank card, you rather get 50,000 on the spot or you get 30,000 later. Supposedly this is kind of to make it so someone might think you do have a card of importance. So you could hold on to one. And it's like, I can see where all of these moving parts, like, you could have something kind of interesting with enough people who are kind of into it. But again, it's like with the alphabetical order, you have to really count on the fact that people are going to remember that even per the instructions, Jack
and Jackie.
Yeah. Just the extra characters make it lower in the deck. So just hope everybody has a memory better than mine.
Yeah, and without being able to look yourself, you can't look at them because then you know what other people have.
You can never do like this when you're picking out. You have to always have it face down. So I need to know, like, Bobby is on top. Or Bobby should be on top.
And that's why the rules, that's why they made that where you have to get 4 of yours and 2 of other people's, just so you're not just going 666 of my own and I'm done. So I can see kind of where they added that to make it a little more complex and stuff like that. But geez, this family really should be patting each other on the back more than trying to fight for each other's personal influence. But we don't know what it's like to be in that kind of situation. So we'll just let that one fly. So some of the pros and cons to the game that I thought is, if you're going to do a game about the Kennedys, during Jack's reign of presidency, it's like, couldn't you do better than these little teeny plastic cups, like little figures? This is 1962 when plastic was starting to hit its heyday, and I have expectations of cool plastic things from the 60s. So I'm a little disappointed with the plastic pieces. They could be better, in my opinion. They are color coded to the person, but like you saw during the game, is it's so little that you have to get down, and the faces all kind of look relatively the same except for Jackie. But yeah, these could be better. Again, I've said it before. The board to me is way too redundant to Clue. It could be something different. They could just change a color. I mean, if you got rid of the yellow, I think I'd feel a little bit better about it. The cover painting's good. I always like cover paintings. It's usually the best part of the game. Usually, not always. Sometimes the board is better. The instructions, I want to talk about this. This is one of my cons, is they do a lot of examples. And in fact, probably more than 50% of these rules are examples. Examples to very simple instructions that make you feel like they're talking down to you when they're doing it.
Instructions that I essentially could write on a notepad in like relatively large text with very few caveats.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting and it would be fun to play with some, you know, maybe as a group. I think
Like
as
a
a
really big
two-player,
group, yeah.
I think it would be kind of a waste of time because we know exactly what we got. If you go in this room, you got one or two cards. If you have 3 or 4 people, you know, it just changes the whole ball game.
Yeah. And although it's like I do like the art and I do like the like little Monopoly money, I think it's cute. Ultimately, it is something that's just so, it's rather over thought out or it was like under thought out. And that's why there's so many examples. I do appreciate examples because there's a lot of moments in the previous games where we've gone,
what?
don't really know what you mean by this. Like, we could use a bit of guidance on that. But this was a lot of like, here's like, yeah, like almost 50% of it is like in these particular situations, like I can read the card too. It's pretty straightforward.
It is. It tells you what's on the card, but they spend like a good section of this telling you what that is. And they have to explain how to alphabetize and do the cards a number of times too, just in case you can't quite figure it out.
Yeah. And it's like that level of granularity where it's like, I kind of get it because they do like expound on like how when it says Bobby, I can't choose not to play it. So it makes sense to have like a caveat in the rules for it. But it feels like it's convoluted. Like it's not difficult because some genius made it like a really like engagingly difficult thing. It was just like they had all of these things to keep track of and they had like a huge board just pinning everything. So it wasn't like a human being making associations. It was more of like strict mechanics.
Yep. And they're humorous. They both wrote for the Harvard Lampoon, and it's supposed to be satirical. And really, it's all just part of the cards.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what part of it is like satire, but I mean, I'm not an expert in the matter, so
Yes.
I'm not from Harvard.
A little before our time, maybe. During my time, but I was way too young. Yeah, and again, thanks, Glenn. We're going to go through your games. We're having a good time seeing what we have and enjoying them all.
Well, thanks for watching.
Yeah, and if you want to know more about us, check us out at toyarchaeology.com. You can also find us on Facebook, and don't forget to subscribe and like us on YouTube.
We'll see you next time. Bye.